Hello, technology enthusiasts. Welcome to another Technology Accelerator video where today I'll be helping you take advantage of technology to not only grow your companies, but also boost your careers because technology is all around us. It's accelerating as fast than ever. And the more we take advantage of it, the more we boost our careers and grow our companies. So today I'm actually going to start talking again about digital transformation. So, for many years, digital transformation has been used as a term. So, I want to just demystify what digital transformation is. And then I'm going to get into the three key risk factors for any company these days, because it always involves technology and always involves a number of factors, which has actually come from research I've done with some angel investors, some capital investors. And it's what these investors look for in companies they're going to invest in. These are three key factors. But before we do that, I want to share an interesting chart from an American futurist and technology strategist called Ray Kurzweil. And he created the Kurzweil curve. And what this shows is the computing power, how it's increased exponentially over time. And this is really interesting because, as you can see, in the 1900s to around the 2000s, the growth of technology was fast but fairly steady. And then once it hit 2000, that's when it really gets exponential growth. And you'll see the projection all the way up to 2050. So let's just break this down a bit. So when we go into 2001, let's just zoom in a bit here and I'll show you where it is. So when we get into the around year 2000, we start to look at how much computing power we have. And in the early 2000s, it's around the equivalent of one insect brain. But what you'll notice, it very quickly expands exponentially up to 2050 when we have all the computing power of all the human brains on the planet. So just imagine that and just let that sink in. We're at a point in time now where we're very fast approaching computing power, which is outstripping human brain power. In fact, arguably, we're actually getting there faster. I'm sure with all the talk around AI and the advances around artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, we can see how fast this is accelerating. And just think back 6 months ago, 8 months ago, we didn't even have ChatGPT. We had AI, but it wasn't widely available. Now suddenly everyone's talking about it. Every company's knowing what to do and wanting what to do and how to adopt it and how to use it because it's just coming at us so fast. So this is really interesting. I love this chart because it just shows the pace of change that we're working against, but also creates a challenge. How do we adopt that technology? How do we adopt the right technology? How do we make sure we invest in the right technology to get the best bang for the buck? And then more importantly, how do we deal with that from a people and process point of view? So to summarize it another way, I always like to show this slide, which is back in the 80s, we had all this technology in massive forms of the stereo, the camera, the CD player. And this has all now been condensed into one pocket computer, our cell phone, our smartphone. So that's how fast and far it's come. All this technology now we carry around in our pockets. So just imagine where that's going to go in the next 10, 15 years as we continue up that acceleration curve. So let's pause for a moment and let's define digital transformation because there's a lot of misconceptions around this. And I want to be really clear that it's not just about technology. That's really important to note. So let's define it. So digital transformation is the overhaul of processes, and then you apply new technology to ultimately create better customer value. I'm going to repeat this because it's important. We overhaul the process and apply new technology to create new customer value. So when you break that down, it starts with the process, then technology, then the customer value. So process, technology, and people is the other way to look at it. But bottom line is, without that customer value, we're wasting money on technology. Without the better process, we're wasting money on the technology as well. And this is important because without knowing this complete picture of how we adopt technology for transformation, we end up wasting time and effort. We all get stressed out and spend more money on it than we should. So just to reiterate what it's not a system upgrade. It's not just upgrading one application or system or not putting a new app on your phone. It's also not necessarily a big project. Digital transformation can be quite small as long as it's making the overall change around the process technology and the customer value. And it's not always run by the IT department. It's a collaboration between many departments. In fact, the IT department can't run digital transformation on their own. They'll even if the IT department is going through digital transformation, they're doing it for some sort of customer value, which is other departments in the company. So there's always that loop of process, technology, and customer value. So that's why I wanted to make that point up front and make sure there's clarity and just to baseline us on what digital transformation means to everyone. So now let's get into those 3 factors that investors look for in terms of business growth and how it links to digital transformation. So I'm going to show you this quadrant, this chart, which is outlining how business growth is affected by 3 key risk factors which you need to be aware of for any digital transformation, any technology project, in fact, any business change. So let's break it down. Starts with digital adoption or technology. How fast, how much technology are you and your company adopting? So the bottom end, you're not doing much technology. In the top end, you're adopting a lot of technology. So that's a scale of how the volume of technology you're adopting and bringing into the company. Because remember, technology is advancing, so you can't not do technology anymore. You have to do some. Then we look at execution. So once you have that technology, how well are you implementing it? How well are you building it into your company? How well are you adapting the processes and the people and everything that goes with it to make sure it's implemented properly? That's the execution. So technology is the first part, then there's the execution. And then the third and final factor is the customer value. And remember, we talked about that in the definition of digital transformation. So what we're saying is the trifecta of how much technology you adopt, how fast you adopt it, how well you implement it, and then what customer value you're creating. And that creates, obviously, the more value you create is by bringing all these 3 factors together. So there's risk associated with these. So if you adopt technology too fast and don't do good execution, you end up wasting money. If you have really good execution, but don't adopt technology very quickly, you end up falling behind the competition. And if you don't do much technology and you don't implement it well, then you don't create any customer value. And that's how all these 3 factors come together. So when you're thinking about your technology acceleration of your own company and your own business and even your own teams, think about these 3 factors. Which technology should we adopt and which one should we be going after and evaluate it properly? Then how you're going to implement it, make sure you've got the people, process, the frameworks to make sure it's implemented well. And always have this customer value, this North Star. This is your vision. This is your roadmap, but also the goal that you want to achieve. So the customer value outcome creates that direction for your team. So when you're in times of stress and you're working through the complexities of technology or maybe the execution, we always go back to what's that one goal, that one success factor we're working towards? What's that customer value we're creating? So here's an example. An example I did recently with a client. We were looking to, the client wanted to speed up the payment of vendors and process invoices. So the digital adoption was the automatic scanning of invoices. It was an automated invoice processing workflow system. So that was the technology we wanted to implement. The quality of the execution was meant we set up the project in the right way using the right team from a combination of the vendor plus the business stakeholders, the vendors, everyone was involved. And then the value was a target to make sure we paid invoices within 10 days if they fell within a certain threshold. So our target was pay invoices within 10 days. That was our North Star guiding light. As a result of those 3 coming together, That's where we achieve really good customer value. Customer value in this case was the vendors getting paid. So another way to look at this is to use cars and vehicles. I love cars. So here's a real neat way of looking at this same quadrant in a slightly different way. So when you think about low adoption technology and low quality of execution, the analogy I like to bring is this compact car. So a compact car is fine, gets you to where you need to be, isn't the fastest, isn't the most practical, but works, gets there, but it might be a bit slower. So on the other end of the scale, you talk about the coupe, the sports coupe. So this is really fast. It's going after all the technology out there, all the different technologies. It's going after the shiny objects. It's very quick, but the quality execution might be lacking. So you end up wasting money on technologies. We don't get the full value from those technologies. So then go down to the other end of the scale in terms of execution. You get to the minivans. The minivans they don't have a huge amount of digital adoption, but they execute really well. They're very practical. They'll get you where you need to go. So then when you combine all this together, where you need to be is the sporty SUV. So this is you're achieving really good digital adoption in a methodical way, staying up to date with technology. You're executing it well in terms of a good project discipline and how you implement it to the company, including the support after the project goes live and the technology goes live. And more importantly, you're achieving the customer value by measuring the results. So this is a real neat way of just thinking back to the three factors of digital transformation and ultimately business growth that investors look for around the technology risk, the digital adoption, the execution risk, how well you implement that technology, and then the customer value risk, as in how much value you're getting from it, and do you have a clear vision and North Star? So my question to you is, which car are you? When you think about where you and your team is in around this quadrant, are you a compact? Are you the sporty SUV? Are you the minivan or the sports SUV? And your company could be in one quadrant. Maybe your company is the minivan of the world, but your team is more of a sports coupe. Maybe it's adopting technology too fast. Or maybe your company is more of a compact, a bit slower, but your team itself is more of a sporty SUV. That's common for companies to have an overall rating of where you are, but then teams to actually be different. The key point here is you need to recognize where you are and decide where you want to go to. You need to progress towards that top right quadrant of the sporty SUV. So wherever you are on this, don't worry about whether you are compared to your competitors right now. Just worry about making progression. How can you move up the scale? And just for some additional context here, I'm going to actually show you where industries are. So this is a really good way of showing, just for some context around different industries around this quadrant. So we'll go back to this industry perspective and the three areas of risk around digital execution and customer value. And then let's look at the compact cars, the bottom left quadrant. This is more around education, government. They're not necessarily all slow, but they don't adopt technology that quickly. Generally speaking, there are some exceptions to the rule, of course. But generally speaking, this is where education and government are. They take a bit more time to adopt technologies, don't always execute it well, do some projects well, but not all of them. Then you go to the top left, and you get to more digital adoption. So you're getting into telecom companies, travel companies, tourism. They adopt more technology because there's much more pressure on those industries to have new technology in front of the customers. So be it the travel industry with apps or the telecom companies with cell phones and communications technologies, they need to adopt the technology quickly. Then you get down to the bottom right and you're looking at manufacturing, construction, maybe insurance. Again, their execution is generally better, more heavily regulated environments. The digital adoption is a bit slower. Because of the regulation, it can slow things down. Manufacturing processes take a long time to change because you're dealing with physical machinery and products. Construction as well. It's the more physicality of the industry means it takes a bit longer. Financial services I'd put in there as well. And also the energy. I'd put in the oil and gas energy industry in that bottom right quadrant as well. Does some things really well, but maybe a bit slower in some areas around technology. Then you get to the top right, the sporty SUVs. So you're talking about the tech companies and talking about the banking industry. Again, they have much more pressure from consumers, much more expectation from the market to deliver this well. So they need to be up there in that top right quadrant. They need to be the sporty SUVs. So anyway, the point here is, again, wherever you are right now, think about where you want to get to, and then make sure you manage against the three risks that investors look for in terms of businesses they invest into. And then that gives your perspective around how you need to grow your business, but also your careers. So the reminder on those three factors, those three risks around technology and digital adoption, around the making sure you adopt the right technologies fast enough to have a quality execution, they're implemented well, and then that customer value. Make sure you have that clear link to what value. And also, and that gives you the North Star to make sure you implement the technology projects well. So again, that's where I wanted let's just zoom back to where we started on this in terms of just that summary of where technologies come from, all the massive amounts of technology which is now available in our pockets, and just imagine where that's going to be in 10, 15 years time and how fast technology accelerating is. So what I want to leave you with is that at the end of the day, this is all about us making sure that we adopt technology in the right way. We make sure we manage the risks, because then do it the right way will boost the growth of your company, but then also boost your careers as well. And that's my goal in the scheme of things. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to share Technology Accelerator advice, tips, and guidance with you. And as we continue to push and grow and scale and make a difference with technology, I'm right here behind you, pushing you along, cheering you along, and we'll see you in the next Technology Accelerator video.